Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled.
It's great to be back.
Usually when we sit down here, we're looking at a stack of notes that it covers maybe a few months of slow, steady progress.
Right.
You see a slightly faster processor, maybe a bit better battery life.
Incremental changes.
Exactly. But looking at the research our team put together for this week, and I mean specifically the last 7 days, January 10th to the 17th, it just feels different.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not an update. It feels more like a sequel.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's like we just turned a massive page in the, the history book of human-computer interaction.
We're calling this deep dive on Tomorrow Unveiled Strapped In, and I want to be really specific about that title.
Okay.
For the past, decade, we've been living in the era of the quantified self. The drill, your watch counts your steps, it tracks your heart rate. It might buzz at you to tell you to stand up. It's passive. It's an observer.
It's a mirror. It's just reflecting data back at you. It doesn't really, fundamentally change how you interact with the world around you.
Yes. But the research our team brought in this week, it suggests that era is, well, it's over. We are just barreling headfirst into what you've called the integrated self.
The integrated self is that shift from observation to augmentation.
Yep.
If you look at the absolute flood of news out of CES 2026 and the specific products that launched this week, the tech isn't just sitting on us anymore.
No.
It's integrating with our actual nervous systems. It's changing our biomechanics. It is predicting our physical intent before we even act on it.
And that's the thing that it blew my mind. We're not just wearing tech anymore. We are physically and neurally strapping into it. We've got glasses that can read the muscles in your wrist.
Right.
We have exoskeletons that cost less than a decent used car and help you walk. Suits that let you feel virtual pain.
Right.
And then this huge regulatory shift from the FDA that just changes the whole game for health tracking.
It's a watershed moment, no question. The line between user and device is getting very, very blurry.
So let's unpack all this. We have to start with the interface. For the last, 15 years, if you wanted to tell a computer to do something, you tapped a piece of glass.
Or you shouted at a smart speaker.
Yeah, and it probably misunderstood you anyway. But looking at the release of the Meta Ray-Ban display and the Neural Band this week, are we finally seeing the death of the touchscreen?
We're certainly seeing the first viable alternative to it. The industry is calling this the invisible interface. And the technology driving it, the thing that lets you control a computer without actually touching it, is something called surface electromyography.
Okay, SEMG.
SEMG, yeah.
That sounds incredibly clinical. Can you break that down for us? Is this thing like reading my mind?
That's the common misconception, and it's a good question. It's not reading your mind, it's reading your nerves. Think of your arm as a big electrical highway. When your brain decides, okay, I'm going to move my index finger, it zaps an electrical impulse down your spinal cord, through your arm, to the muscles in your hand.
Right. Standard biology so far.
Exactly. But here's the magic. The SEMG sensors in that neural band, they sit on your wrist, and they can detect that electrical spike on the highway before the traffic actually gets to its destination.
So wait, before my finger actually moves?
It detects the signal before your finger physically moves, yeah.
That is the part that feels like science fiction. It's not reading the movement, it's reading the intent to move.
Precisely. And that solves a huge problem in computing, which is latency. Biology is, actually kind of slow.
Right.
The signal has to travel, chemical gates in the muscle have to open, the muscle fibers contract, the mass of your finger has to move through space, the sensor just bypasses all that mechanical lag.
Which would explain why the team over at Mudra Link, who are partnering with Rokid, are claiming their neural click is faster than a physical mouse click.
It's technically faster than your own physical reaction time. You don't have to complete the motion. You can just start to think about pinching your finger and boom, the band has already registered the command.
That is just wild. It's taking the friction of the human body out of the equation. But let's talk about what this actually looks like in the real world, because the biggest barrier to wearables has always been the dork factor.
The glass hole era, yeah.
Yeah.
We all remember it.
We all remember it. People tapping the sides of their heads, looking like cyborgs. So with this new Meta Neural Band and the display glasses, what's the user experience really like?
Ideally, it looks like nothing at all. That's the invisible part of the interface. Right. You could be walking down the street. It's a cold day. Your hands are buried deep in your jacket pockets.
Okay.
To anyone else, you're just walking. But inside your pocket, you're making these tiny little movements.
Micro gestures.
Exactly. You pinch your thumb to your index finger. That's a click on a notification you see in your glasses. You rub your thumb along the side of your index finger, and that's scrolling through an email. You're basically using your own skin as a touch surface.
So I could be scrolling through my morning briefing, waiting for the bus, hands in my pockets, just staring straight ahead.
And nobody would have a clue. It's socially invisible. They even added a gesture for volume that I find really intuitive. You just twist your wrist slightly like you're turning an invisible volume knob in the air.
That feels so much more natural than waving your arms around like you're conducting an orchestra, which was kind of the old way of doing gesture control.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to hold their arms up for 20 minutes. There's a term for it, gorilla arm. It's exhausting. This lets you keep your hands in a natural resting position.
Now, our research team highlighted something specific about the Mudra Link band that I think is really important. It's not just a binary thing, not just click or no click. They're talking about weight and force estimation.
This is a huge leap in the signal processing side of things. The band isn't just listening for a fire command. It's analyzing the intensity of the electrical storm in your nerves.
Okay.
It can estimate how heavy an object you're holding is or how much force you're exerting just by reading those strain signals.
Why do I need my watch to know how heavy my coffee cup is?
Well, okay, think about physical therapy. If a therapist is helping someone recover from a stroke, they need to know if the patient is gripping an object with the right amount of force.
Ah, okay.
The band gives them that data instantly. Or think about industrial safety. The system could detect if a worker is lifting a box that's too heavy for them and send an alert.
Or even in, say, gaming. Squeezing a virtual trigger could actually feel different depending on how hard I squeeze my real finger.
Exactly. It's adding an analog layer to a digital input. It brings nuance to the whole interface.
Now, not everyone wants to wear a wristband. And for some people, maybe, due to amputation or paralysis, a wristband isn't even an option. And that's where Logics comes in. They've moved the invisible mouse to the ear.
The neural earbud. This is just such a clever use of real estate. So many of us are already used to wearing earbuds for music or for calls.
Right.
Naki uses tiny gyroscopes and biosensors inside the ear canal to detect what they call microgestures of your face and your head.
Micro gestures like, what? Am I wiggling my ears? Because I can't do that.
No ear wiggling required. We're talking about really subtle jaw clenches or tiny, almost imperceptible head tilts.
So if I just clench my jaw, that's a click.
That's a click, exactly. It creates a hands-free, voice-free, screen-free mouse.
I can see the privacy angle right away. If I'm on a crowded train, I can't talk to a voice assistant, and maybe I don't want to pull out my phone. But I can clench my jaw, and nobody would ever notice.
And think about accessibility. For a user with quadriplegia, who might have full control of their head and facial muscles but not their limbs, this kind of earbud system just opens up the entire digital world.
It turns their head into a high-precision joystick.
Pretty much.
That really drives home that integrated concept.
Right.
We're turning parts of our bodies, wrists, jaws, heads, into computer peripherals. But, we still need a screen. We have the input. Now we need the output.
The face computer.
Augmented reality glasses. We have been promised this for a decade. And usually we get a bulky helmet or a display that just washes out the second you step outside.
Yep.
But looking at the specs for the Meta Ray-Ban display that dropped this week, are we finally looking at something that's actually usable?
I think we're crossing that threshold of utility. And there is one number in the spec sheet that tells you everything you need to know. 5,000 nits.
Okay, for anyone listening who doesn't obsess over display tech, put that number in context for us.
Your average laptop screen is maybe, 400 or 500 nits? A really high-end smartphone might hit 2,000 nits at its peak brightness. So 5,000 nits means this display is incredibly, incredibly bright.
Which means I can actually use it outdoors, in the sun.
Exactly. That has always been the deal breaker for AR. If you can't see the hologram because the sun is shining, the device is just a toy. At 5,000 nits, you can see those turn-by-turn navigation arrows projected onto the sidewalk, even at high noon.
And it's not just about brightness, it's about intelligence. The integration of visual AI seems to be the killer app here.
It is. This is that multimodal AI we've been hearing so much about. The glasses have cameras, they see what you see. So you can look at a pile of random ingredients on your kitchen counter, some eggs, spinach, a leftover onion.
Right.
And you just ask, what can I make with this?
And the glasses tell you.
They do more than tell you. They project the recipe steps floating in the air right next to your cutting board. It identifies the objects in front of you and provides context.
That is the literal definition of augmentation. It's adding a layer of intelligence onto the physical world. And the live translation feature.
I mean, that is the Star Trek Universal Translator moment we've all been waiting for.
It really is.
You're looking at someone speaking a different language, let's say Japanese, and the glasses are listening, translating, and then projecting English captions that just float right next to their head in real time.
That fundamentally changes human connection. You're not looking down at your phone, typing into Google Translate. You're maintaining eye contact.
But we should be clear, Meta isn't the only one pushing this. Our research team had extensive notes on the competition. Vuzix and Adigant, for instance, they just announced a reference design this week that weighs under 50 grams.
50 grams! That's lighter than the sunglasses I'm wearing right now.
It's incredibly light. They're using what's called advanced waveguide optics to shrink the whole optical engine down to almost nothing. It proves you don't need a heavy headset to get this kind of experience.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have XR partnering with Google for Android XR, and they're pushing for a massive field of view.
70 degrees. Most smart glasses today give you this tiny little window. It's like looking through a mail slot. 70 degrees is panoramic. It starts to fill your vision.
So if we connect the dots here between the neural wristband and these super bright glasses, what's the macro trend? What's the end goal?
The goal is invisible computing. Every major tech company in this space is trying to kill the smartphone.
Or at least demote it.
Right, demote it. They want to move the screen from your hand to your eye and move the controller from the glass to your nerves.
It's about reducing that Black Mirror time.
That is the hope, that state where you're just hunched over, ignoring the world, staring at a little rectangle in your hand. They want to end that. The promise is that you keep your head up, your hands free, and you stay present in the physical world while still having access to the digital one.
Which sounds a little utopian until you realize you're still just reading emails while pretending to listen to your friend. But okay, let's follow this chain of strapping in. We have sight, we have control. Now we have to talk about touch. Because this week we saw the release of two devices that approach feeling the virtual world in completely different ways. We have a tank and we have a feather. Let's start with the tank, the Tesla Suit XR5.
This thing is a beast. It launched on January 16th, and it is a full-body haptic suit. It looks like something straight out of a superhero movie.
And it has a price tag to match. We're looking at around $9,900.
Yeah, so not something you're going to buy for casual gaming on the weekend.
Not unless you're a very, very serious gamer, but what does 10 grand actually get you?
It gets you what the company calls tactile consequences. The suit is covered in these electrotactile feedback points. It also has full motion capture and biometrics just woven right into the fabric.
Tactile consequences. That sounds a little ominous.
Well, in the military training context it was designed for, it is. If you make a mistake in a combat simulation and you get shot, the suit delivers a localized electric shock.
Wow.
It simulates pain. It raises the stakes of the training instantly.
I can see why the military would want that, but the research team also flagged rehabilitation as a major use case. How does a pain suit help with rehab?
In that context, it's not about pain, it's about guidance. Imagine a patient with a spinal cord injury who is trying to relearn how to walk. The suit can actually stimulate specific muscle groups to fire in the correct sequence.
So it's not just recording motion, it's actively guiding the body.
It's providing a closed feedback loop for the nervous system. The suit is, in a way, teaching the body how to move again. It's incredible.
That is incredible.
And in robotics, specifically teleoperation, it's a game changer. If you're controlling a humanoid robot in a hazardous environment, say a nuclear plant cleanup, and the robot bumps into a wall, you feel the bump. If the robot is holding a heavy pipe, you feel the resistance. It allows for a level of dexterity you just can't get from staring at a video feed.
Okay, so that's the heavy artillery. But for the average person who just wants to feel a button click in the metaverse without wearing a full bodysuit, we have the afference ring. And this brings us right back to that neural theme.
This is one of my favorite innovations of the week because it's so elegant. Traditional haptics use motors, little vibrating weights like what's in your phone or your game controller. Yeah. That's mechanical, it's bulky, it uses a lot of power, and, just feels like a buzzer. It doesn't really feel like a touch.
And the afference ring does what instead?
It uses neural haptics. It uses electrical stimulation to hijack the nerve fibers in your finger.
You keep using the word hijack. It's a little unsettling.
It's accurate, though. It sends a very specific electrical pattern into your skin that tricks your brain into interpreting it as pressure or texture or a sharp click.
So there are no moving parts at all.
Zero moving parts.
Yeah.
It's purely information being sent directly to the nerves.
And this solves the ghost touch problem, right?
Completely.
Yeah.
Ghost touch is that weird, cognitive dissonance you get in AR. You reach out to press a floating blue button, your eyes see your finger hitting it, but your hand just feels air.
And your brain goes, this isn't real.
Exactly, the immersion breaks. The afference ring provides that sensation of resistance or that click right on your fingertip at the exact moment you intersect with the hologram.
And since it's electrical, not mechanical, the power consumption must be way, way lower.
A massive difference, 5 to 7 times less power than a motor. And that's critical when you're trying to build a ring that can last all day on a tiny little battery.
We also saw the Wirt Touch Diver Pro adding thermal cues to the mix this week.
Feeling heat and cold. Again, think about training. If you're training a factory worker on safety protocols in VR, being able to actually feel that a pipe is hot creates a much stronger memory than just seeing a red warning light.
It taps into our primal survival instincts.
It does.
It really is all converging. Sight, touch, control. But we're leaving out the biggest muscles in the body. We need to talk about mobility. Because while the brain and the hands are busy computing, the legs still have to carry us around. And this segment of the research, this is the one that really makes me feel like we're living in a sci-fi novel.
The bionic body.
We're talking about the DeFi Sidekick. These are, for all intents and purposes, robotic boots.
Technically, they're ankle exoskeletons, but robotic boots is much more fun to say.
These started shipping recently. The full reviews dropped this week, and we're looking at a price point of $4,500.
Which puts it in the realm of a high-end mountain bike.
It's expensive, yeah, but it's a prosumer price. It's not a military budget price.
The description of the experience is what really got me. A journalist from PC Mag tried them on and said it felt like walking downhill all the time.
That is the perfect analogy for metabolic assistance. The device uses sensors to analyze your gait. It actually learns how you walk in about 15 seconds. And then, right as your foot pushes off the ground, a motor fires and gives you a boost. It's like having an extra calf muscle.
Exactly. It just reduces the energy cost of walking.
And they're not just targeting, warehouse workers lifting heavy boxes, right? The marketing materials explicitly mention Disney World trips.
The Disney World use case is brilliant marketing because it's so relatable. You go there, you walk 20,000 steps, and by 4 in the afternoon, you are just destroyed. These boots promise to flatten that fatigue curve.
Or active aging.
This is the socially transformative part. If you have a 70-year-old who wants to go hiking with their grandkids but just doesn't have the stamina anymore, this device bridges that gap. It's not replacing their legs, it's augmenting them. It allows them to participate.
We also saw the Ascenta's H1 Pro, which targets the hip and the knee, and they're claiming a 30% reduction in metabolic effort.
Think about that number, 30%. That's the difference between being exhausted after a mile and feeling fresh. It's basically an e-bike, but for your legs.
That's the analogy. E-bikes democratize cycling for people who couldn't handle the hills. These are going to democratize distance walking.
But it also raises some interesting questions about dependency, which I think we should get to in a bit.
Absolutely. Before we get to the dependency issues and the slightly terrifying security risks that come with wiring your brain to the internet, I want to take a quick pause to talk to you, the listener. If you're finding this deep dive into the integrated self valuable, do us a huge favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. It actually helps the algorithm find other people who are interested in the future. Subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled if you haven't already. And check out the new Hype button if you really want to boost the signal. Be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the future.
And for our audio listeners on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leaving a rating or a review is the single best thing you can do to support Tomorrow Unveiled. It really helps us keep digging into these research stacks every single week.
All right, so let's get weird. We've talked about strapping things on. Boots, glasses, suits. But the research from our team this week also highlighted the chemistry of the self. We're talking about breakthroughs in materials that sit right on your skin, or even act like skin.
This is where hardware starts to look and feel like biology. Our team found some really fascinating research coming out of Drexel University and Seoul National University about stretchable OLEDs.
I know what an OLED is. It's the screen on my phone. But stretchable.
Yeah, up to 1.6 times its original size. They used a nanomaterial called MZine for the electrodes.
MZine? That sounds like a villain in a Marvel movie.
It does, but it's actually a very conductive, very durable 2D material.
Yeah.
By using it, they created a display that can stretch and twist with your skin without breaking the circuit or, losing its glow.
So the vision here is what? A smart tattoo.
Oh, ideally, yeah. Imagine a display that sticks to the back of your hand like a Band-Aid. It's showing your heart rate, your oxygen levels, maybe a notification, and it moves with you. It's not a rigid watch sitting on top of your wrist. It behaves like a second skin.
Which pairs perfectly with the self-healing e-skin research from the Terasaki Institute.
Right. If you're going to wear a sensor patch 24/7, you're going to bang it into door frames, you're going to scratch it. This new material can repair its own electrical connections in seconds after being cut or torn.
So the data stream never breaks.
Exactly.
And speaking of data streams, this is the part that I think actually affects the most people in the short term. Sweat sensors.
This is the big shift from physical tracking to chemical tracking.
Our research team flagged work from UT Dallas and Enleysense. What are they finding in our sweat that's so important?
Two things mainly, cortisol and melatonin.
Stress and sleep.
Correct. Currently, your smartwatch guesses your stress level. It looks at your heart rate variability, your HRV, and it infers that you might be stressed. It's a proxy. This new sensor is chemically measuring the actual cortisol molecule, the stress hormone, in your sweat.
So it's not a guess. It's a lab test on your wrist.
It's a continuous, non-invasive lab test. And it's the same thing with melatonin. Instead of just tracking when you stop moving to guess when you fell asleep, it can track the rise of melatonin in your system to tell you when you are biologically primed for sleep.
This moves us from health tracking to metabolic monitoring.
It does. And that distinction, metabolic monitoring, is exactly why the news from January 6th is so incredibly important.
The FDA bombshell.
The FDA guidance on general wellness devices.
Usually FDA guidance documents are dry as dust, but our research team flagged this as a massive deregulatory move. Can you explain the change that happened on January 6th?
Sure. Historically, if a device wanted to measure something medical, like blood pressure or glucose, it needed strict FDA clearance as a medical device. That process takes years and millions of dollars.
Okay.
On January 6th, the FDA clarified that non-invasive sensors, like the optical ones in a ring or a watch, can be marketed as wellness devices without that strict clearance provided.
And here comes the big caveat.
Provided they do not claim to diagnose a specific disease.
So my watch can't say, you have diabetes.
Correct. But it can say, your blood glucose trends are spiking, which is poor for your metabolic wellness.
It's a linguistic loophole.
It's a massive one. It allows companies to give you all this data, blood pressure, glucose, oxygen, but frame it as lifestyle information.
The HHS Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., called this unlocking wearable devices. I mean, it sounds like a win for innovation. We get the tech faster.
We do get the tech faster, yes. Yeah. It opens the floodgates for Samsung, Apple, Aura, you name it. But we also lose the guarantee of clinical accuracy. If it's not a medical device, the required margin for error is much wider. You're basically trading assurance for access.
And that brings us to the dark side. Because we can't talk about integrating technology into our bodies without talking about the risks. And I'm not just talking about inaccurate blood pressure readings. I'm talking about brain jacking.
The report on neurocybersecurity that our team found this week was sobering, to say the least.
Brain jacking. Define that nightmare for me.
It's the unauthorized access or control of a brain-computer interface, a BCI.
So someone hacking my neural wristband.
In its simplest form, yes. Imagine you're wearing that metaband. A hacker intercepts the signal. They could, theoretically, inject a command. They can make your hand click on a malicious link that you had no intention of clicking.
But it goes deeper than just clicks, doesn't it?
Oh, much deeper. Cognitive hacking.
Yeah.
If we're wearing earbuds that monitor our brain waves, our EEG to detect focus or stress, which employers are already testing, that data is a window straight into your mind.
Neurosurveillance.
Exactly. A hacker or an employer or an advertiser could analyze your neural response to certain stimuli. They could know what you're afraid of, what you desire, what makes you stressed, maybe before you even consciously realize it yourself.
They're stealing a mental profile.
And the vulnerability report noted that 70% of current neurotech devices have exploitable vulnerabilities. They're often using standard Bluetooth protocols with really weak encryption.
We're strapping these things to our nervous systems, and they have the security of a cheap smart bulb.
It's the classic tech story. Innovation is moving at 100 miles an hour, and security is driving at 30. We're rushing to integrate, but we haven't built the walls yet.
That is a lot to process. So let's try to pull this all together. We started this episode of Tomorrow Unveiled talking about the integrated self.
And I think the evidence from this week is overwhelming. We're not just wearing gadgets anymore. We are augmenting our biology.
We're seeing through the glasses, we're controlling with the wristbands, feeling with the suits, and moving with the boots.
And the market is betting big. Projections are hitting $827 billion by 2032. This is not a niche.
But I want to go back to one thing you mentioned earlier, the taking them off part.
Bionics fatigue.
The reviewer with the robotic boots.
Right. She said that when she took them off after an hour, her own legs felt weirdly heavy. She felt slow.
Because her baseline for what feels normal had shifted.
Exactly. And that is the profound philosophical question here. If we get used to the glasses doing the seeing for us and the band doing the clicking and the boots doing the walking, what happens when the battery dies?
Do we feel normal or do we feel disabled?
Do we feel less than human because we are no longer augmented? That's the gamble we are taking with the integrated self. We're raising the ceiling of human capability, but we might be lowering the floor of our natural existence.
That is a haunting thought to end on, but a necessary one. We want to hear from you. Are you ready to strap in? Would you trust a wristband to read your intent? Or does the idea of brain jacking keep you firmly analog?
I'm incredibly curious to see where the audience draws the line on all this.
We love hearing your thoughts. Whether you're on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, leave a comment and let us know what you think about strapping into a neural interface. Thanks for listening to Tomorrow Unveiled.
We'll see you in the future.